Specifically, Section 5 of the rule book that you guys have emailed out covers some of these specific construction requirements. And a lot of these are new items, so we encourage you to look at that before you start building. About the guardrails that I covered a little bit, 30 inches off the ground, they're 42 inches high. Joist spacing, there's specific requirements for joist spacing within your occupied platforms. We have some rules about the thickness of platform depth. I might have Jim jump in there too. And tread depth is about stairs as well.
One of the things that we noticed over time, and specifically last year, was if you're building an occupied platform or a stairway, you need to have 3/4 inch material. Again, you've got a 150-pound person going up and down there. 1/2 inch Blandex is not going to hold that based on the stair height. And also your joint should always be based on top of a joist. So as an example, you didn't have 2 joists and a piece of plywood, 2 pieces of plywood come meeting in the center, so they'll just wobble. So those are the 2 things in particular that I wanted to emphasize. It's a good idea then, if your occupied platform, again, 16-inch centers. We'd really, really, really like it if you get a 2x6 at minimum to do your spans. In those situations, 2x4s are really not structural for occupied structures, so that's another consideration. I see a question back there. Okay.
So again, the specifics are listed in the activities guide on Section 5, so please look at those specifics. Those are new, those are things that the inspections are going to be checking, and all this is part of our lawn display safety process. Here is probably something a lot of you have heard about and maybe looked at when you saw the rule book. This is kind of my way of trying to demonstrate to you some of the changes this year. Well, first of all, you all need to call Iowa One Call. I believe it's before either this Friday or next Friday. So you have Iowa One Call come out and check your property where the lawn display is going to be built, make sure that that's all covered. The city is able to check to see if you called, so we do have a way of knowing because the city obviously comes out and does the locates for you. So we'll know, and you guys need to do that. Generally speaking, if you're going to use poles, we want you to have the poles in the ground 4.5 feet. That's based upon a little bit about last year with some of the wind advisories we had. There's some concerns about whether or not the displays can withstand some of the stormy weather that we had last year, so this is a recommendation based on that. So please have the poles. If you're going to use poles yet this year, they need to be 4.5 feet in the ground. There's a 10-foot limit. What that means for construction of the display, well, there's a 10-foot limit during the presentation. We don't want anybody in higher than 10 feet. But on the display, as opposed to years past, where you guys, say if you were building a campanile and you could build it, and then you'd build it 10 feet and you put a platform, and then you'd work on the platform and then build the campanile taller, and then build another platform, and you'd build a ladder into the back of the structure or something like that. That is not something that we're going to have this year. This year, you can only build something while standing on the display up to 10 feet. So your feet are 10 feet off the ground, no higher. If you go any higher than that, we require you to do scaffolding or a mechanical lift. That also avoids you guys from building a platform and wrapping your one arm around the post and reaching around the front and nailing on blue board or foam board or something like that. So this is going to limit all that. So if you're on the display, if you're constructing the display, you can only stand on something you built up to 10 feet. If you're higher than 10 feet off the ground, you have to be on scaffolding or you have to be in a lift. And remember, we have it so we want you to use those materials. We don't want that to be figured into your budget, so you can cut out of other parts of your display. So the scaffolding and the lift rental dollars do not figure in your budget, so remember that. Generally speaking, the biggest change, of course, is there will be a 20-foot height limit on all construction. So from grade up, 20 feet is all the higher we're going to have you go this year. It's for a number of reasons, one being the pole depth, the other one being the concern about wind loads and that kind of thing, and the other thing just because there's a lot of people in town, there's a lot of people on campus, so a lot of people are very much taking notice of the construction, of the things you guys are building, and they definitely want maybe some of these things to not be quite as large. It makes a lot of people feel a lot better, especially with the wind concerns that we had last year. In here, I didn't say anything about it, but in the HAG as well, I'm not sure if I cover that in a little bit. If you're using facing materials, we also added a rule that we don't want you to face any of your structures with plywood or particle board or anything like that. So I think most of you are doing it already, but we want you to use cardboard, blue board, foam board, something like that when you're facing your construction. So if you build something that's 20 feet high, if there is a 50, 60 mile an hour wind gust, we want the facing that you put on the structure to break and bend and give, rather than have that whole wind load be transferred to the structure that you built. So that's something a lot of you do with cardboard and blue board anyway, so that's just something that's actually a rule in the rule book this year. So if you have any questions about that, we'll have questions in a little bit, but that's kind of the way I think about it. So make sure you're aware of that, and again, that is all in the HAG. Inspections this year will be a lot more regular. Tim and Drew here will be hanging around your displays quite often, especially as things get closer to homecoming. If you're familiar with how the Yell Like Hell coordinator and the Side Squad members are around during Yell Like Hell practice, it's a lot more about how Drew and Tim, as well as the other members of Homecoming Central, are going to be during your lawn display construction. So they're going to be around, they're going to get to know you, they're going to know what you're building, how you're doing it, and that kind of thing, and that's all to increase the amount of, the focus on safety that we want you guys to have during this whole process. There will be at least 2 scheduled inspections that you will know about ahead of time. Likely they'll be the week, similar to last year, where it'll be the week before, the week of homecoming displays, where they'll go around and do one final inspection. I'm sure Jim and other members of the university administration will be there to walk around and check some of these things that we've covered this year. So. That's it about the safety presentation specifically. Again, if you have any questions at all, feel free to contact me, the co-chairs, Drew and Tim as well. They're available. You have their contact information. Don't hesitate to call them. Don't hesitate to contact them before you build. And they'll talk about when Patents are doing everything this Friday, but also contact them if you have any questions about the things that you're planning on building, because we want to cover these things so you don't go down a path, before, too far before we want to, make some changes to what your plan is if we have any concerns. So.